So here's a challenge. How do you deal with fellow brothers and sisters in Christ who may be supportive of abortion or may be supportive of same-sex marriage? I mean, these are big ethical issues that seem to have great weight and significance in our culture, and also seem to be issues that would be clear what side someone should be on if they're a follower of Christ and they're familiar with their Bible. But there seem to be a lot of people who identify themselves as Christians but are also pro-abortion and in favor of same-sex marriage. So what then? How do we deal with that? And I guess the first thing that I'd want to do is start asking some questions. Why is it that the person who's in favor of abortion is in favor of abortion? Now, a lot of Christians say, for example, that they think that abortion is wrong for them personally, but they can't force their views on other people. And so there's a certain innocence in many cases about that response. So I have a question that I ask to help them to think about that a little more carefully, and that is, why are they personally against abortion? And most of the time, the Christian is going to say, well, I personally think that abortion kills an innocent child, but I don't think I should be forcing my views on other people. And this is where I follow up, and I just repeat back to them what I heard them say and ask them to assess it. But I take the spin off of it. So I say, what I thought I heard you say was that you actually do believe that abortion kills an innocent human being, and you believe that women should be allowed to do that to their children. Is that right? Well, that is their view. It just doesn't sound so good when I take the spin off of it a little bit. And I think that a lot of people just have never thought this through. And so by forcing them to think more carefully about it, they see that, boy, that's not a very noble view. So sometimes people haven't thought about it. Same thing with same-sex marriage. They think, well, what's the difficulty? What's the problem? How is it going to hurt me? And what they're asking themselves is, how is it going to hurt me if the guys down the street walk down the aisle and say I do and live together and whatever? Well, I don't know how that's going to hurt the average Christian, but that's not what's at stake with same-sex marriage. The real question is not what's going to happen if those guys walk down the aisle, but what's going to happen if the culture, if the state, if the law declares officially that there's no distinction between same-sex unions and heterosexual unions. What will be the impact then? Well, that's going to have a huge impact, because now you have the law weighing in, saying that there is no distinction, and this is going to influence individual liberties, this is going to influence parental rights, and this is going to influence religious freedoms. So I think that there's a lot of Christians who adopt these views because it's uncomfortable to go otherwise, but they haven't really thought about it. One final thought, though. I think there are some people who adopt these views because they're embarrassed in a certain sense to take the other side. It's easier to flow through life kind of agreeing with the masses instead of being the odd person out. Now, I think that's a serious concern. It's not a concern that people don't want to be the odd person out. It's a concern that a person is willing to go with the flow than to stand with Jesus. Why would anyone want to be in favor of something, same-sex marriage, for example, that God himself calls wrong, that entails activities that God says are very wrong? Why would any Christian feel the necessity to go along with that? And that, I think, is at the heart of some people. For some, it's just innocence. They haven't thought it through. Other people, their priorities just aren't right. And sometimes it's helpful to point that out.